Where I'm from, they say BTA, belt the ass. But I tell them I'm the buckle. It hurt more.
The fighting pride of Omaha, Nebraska, USA, and no.
Make sure y'all stay on point with the Puncher's Point. What is good, y'all? Welcome back to the Puncher's Point. Now, in case y'all fell asleep early or you had to have an early shift at work and you couldn't see the fight, if you are watching this video the next day, here is the spoiler alert for you guys. Terence Crawford, now a 3-time undisputed champion, a 5-division champion, and he does it with no controversy, and he lays all rumors to rest. He lays all doubters to rest. Terence Crawford defeats Canelo Alvarez by unanimous decision to become the undisputed super middleweight champion. Now, we're going to get into this insane, shocking, whole whirlwind, how this is going to change boxing, all of that. But overall, before we get to any of that, I want to say congratulations, Terence Crawford. I mean, Terence Crawford did something that I picked Terence Crawford to win this fight by split decision, but I thought it was going to be competitive. This fight was not competitive. In my opinion, Terence Crawford just dominated this fight. Now, the judges had it 116, 112. Me personally, I had it 118, 110 Terence Crawford. I think besides 3 rounds, he absolutely dominated Canelo Alvarez. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about this fight. We're going to talk about the fight grade and overall what should be next for Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez as well. Now, before I continue on with this video, I do want to say to Canelo Alvarez, keep your head high. I don't want anybody really trashing Canelo Alvarez. Again, he's a boxing legend. You know, he gave us a great fight. And unlike a lot of guys, when they got tested in the danger, he didn't run away. You know, there were times where he would get hit, shake his head off, and try to shake it off and get back into the fight. He gave us a great fight. So overall, I'm just glad that it was a great fight. I'm glad that it was a historic fight. And I'm glad that both these guys get to go home safely and healthily to their families. So with that being said, we're going to kick right into it. Now, as far as the strategy grade, here's what I will say about this. If I had to pick the strategy grade, I'm going to give it an 8. Now, for y'all who are new, who haven't really watched my podcast before, the strategy grade is a combination. Is the overall grade of both fighters, Canelo and Terence Crawford. For me, I'm going to start off with what Canelo could have done better with. So, when this fight first started, really wasn't nothing going on, but you could tell Bud really wanted to establish that jab early. He came into this fight as a southpaw. Now, I found that very interesting because I thought that Terence Crawford was better being a right-handed fighter. I know that he's a master at both, but for me, I just feel like he was more comfortable using that right hand. But this fight, for the entire fight, he was a southpaw, which really kind of shocked me, and it was very interesting to see in this fight. So the first round, I'm going to be honest with you, the first round, I gave it to Canelo. I feel like in the first round, he was pushing Bud back, and he landed a couple body shots, and you can tell that's what Canelo wanted to do. You could tell that's what he wanted to do throughout this fight. He wanted to land those body shots on Terence Crawford in hopes that it would tire him out. Newsflash, spoiler alert, it didn't. Go and watch the highlights. Terence Crawford looked like he could go another 12 rounds. Then the second round came, and I had Terence Crawford win that round. And in the second round, I feel like Terence Crawford really started establishing that jab. And in my opinion, the jab started clicking a little bit with him. However, he couldn't land that right hand. The jab was landing, but the right hand just couldn't land. He couldn't find the opportunities to land that right hand. Then I gave Crawford the third round. He was clicking with the jab, and then the counter right started landing a little bit. Then you start seeing, okay, well, now Terence Crawford, he's starting to not only establish the jab, but that counter right's kind of slipping its way in there. Round 4, I gave it to Canelo. Now, in round 4 for me, I feel like it was close, but Canelo really was dominating that round, in my opinion, or he had the more impactful punches with the 1-2 straights, and I really liked that. And then somewhere along the line, Canelo Alvarez just kind of shied away from it as the fight progressed, but the 1-2 straights, in my opinion, were what gave Canelo the edge. And then from there, I gave Canelo round 5. I thought Canelo was bobbing and weaving. He was definitely slipping a lot of punches from Terence Crawford. And overall, round 5 was really boring, and that's what got me the win for Canelo. I feel like Canelo was doing better defensively in that round. And then after round 5, I'm going to save y'all all the time. Crawford won all the way from round 6 on. And I'm going to point to some of the tools that Crawford used in round 6. So one thing I will say is Crawford in round 6, he really started chaining his punches together. And when he chained those punches together, it wasn't just, oh, I'm going to land the right when it's a counter. He started landing that right as a pressure punch. He started backing Canelo up a little bit. Then you also got to start thinking about the foot movement and the footwork. When you go and you watch that fight, Terence Crawford did a very good job of footwork. He did an absolutely incredible job with using his footwork and basically getting Canelo very uncomfortable in this fight. And I found it really interesting that he used it in the way that I wanted him to use it. I said that it needs to be a mix of Bivol and Lara, and that's exactly what it was. He did a great job of using his footwork in that manner. However, he also did a very good job as the rounds progressed. He started pressuring Canelo. He started backing Canelo up. He started landing some 2-3 punch combinations, and he started landing them as counters. And that's what really shocked me as well. And when I watched that fight, when I saw it, what I noticed was Terence Crawford used a mix of Bivol, Lara, and Triple G. A lot of people are saying Mayweather. In my opinion, I see little flashes, but not necessarily a Mayweather game plan. And the reason why I don't see the Mayweather game plan is if you go back and you watch the Mayweather fight, Mayweather was just counter punching him with maybe one punch. And overall, it would be like a one punch and then he would slip out and he would kind of stay on the ropes and wait for Canelo to make a mistake. Terence Crawford did that, but better. It wasn't just one punch counters. It was, I'm going to chain 3-4 punches together and I'm going to get Canelo all flustered. And that's exactly what he did. And you can tell as the rounds progress, you could tell that footwork and that movement because, like I said, Crawford had to use every single inch of that ring, and that's exactly what he did. And you could tell when he was using every inch of that ring, Canelo was just getting gassed. Again, nobody has worked Canelo like that in a long time. And I'm in a boxing group chat, so I'm going to steal one from the guy Mike. Crawford beat Canelo like hot lasagna. Let's just keep it a buck. I mean, I'm going to be real. And in my opinion, watching this fight, it looked like Rocky versus Mason Dixon from Rocky Balboa. I mean, it just looked like Canelo was getting dominated out there. It just looked like he didn't have an answer for anything. It seemed like whenever he would clip Crawford with something, Crawford would just come back with a counter. He would just always have an answer for anything Canelo had. And for me, I think Crawford did a very good job of establishing the jab, establishing the right. And also, he did a very good job of chaining his punches together, which is something that Canelo didn't do. He just kept throwing one punch. That's all it was. I'm going to throw it to the body. I'm going to throw a hook. You know, maybe I'll throw a straight. But he wouldn't chain nothing together until the 10th, 11th, and 12th round when he needed that knockout. And to me, that's where Canelo messed up, is because I had, for the keys to victory for Canelo, when I had them, I said the keys to victory for Canelo is you need to load up that right. And he was doing, and I'm not going to lie, there were moments where he clipped Crawford with that right. The problem was Crawford had an answer for him. And the problem was every single time Canelo threw that right, he left his head open and he gave Crawford opportunities to counterpunch him. The straight counter, again, he did not throw that as much as I wanted him to, and I wish that he threw it a lot more because I do feel like, again, that right hand was working. The straight counter, it would have worked. And then use 1-2 punch combinations to pressure Terence Crawford and back him up. In the beginning rounds, Canelo was doing that. You could see Canelo was the aggressor. And I said it in the prediction episode, very rare times do you see Canelo Alvarez get pushed back. In this fight, come to later rounds, he got pushed back. And the reason why is because he kind of shied away from those 1-2 punch combinations to get Crawford on the ropes. He basically just started throwing one punch because he was so frustrated with what Crawford was doing. Crawford was beating him to the punch at everything. He felt like he needed to get some punches in, but he was too tired to throw or land some combinations. He was too flustered and too frustrated when it came to trying to find a way to get some combinations in. I mean, overall, it wasn't the best fight for Canelo Alvarez, and it wasn't necessarily his game plan. Terence Crawford was just more fresh, and he just had a better one. So for me, if I had to give a grade for the game plan, I'm going to give it an 8, or the strategy. I'm going to give that strategy grade an 8 because I do feel like both these guys had a good strategy coming in. For me, I just feel like Crawford had the better strategy and he was a lot more fresh, and I think that had something to do with it as well. Now, as far as the entertainment aspect of it, this was an entertaining fight. I mean, I'm going to give the entertainment aspect of it an 8.5. It would have been higher if it was more competitive, but it really wasn't. And I do give Canelo a lot of credit for staying in the fight, like I said earlier, and not running away, you know, not being complacent. It looked like he tried to get some punches in later. And again, they had a lot of great flurries in that fight. Specifically, round 9 and round 11 were very exciting. Those were great rounds. And in my opinion, those are probably the two of the best rounds in that fight. So I will say they definitely kept it entertaining and exciting throughout the fight. So I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think the only thing that stops it from going any higher is it was one-sided by Crawford, but it was an absolutely beautiful masterclass from Terence Crawford on what he was doing. And he made an exciting fight. It wasn't like a Floyd Mayweather fight where he would throw one counter and slip out. It wasn't like the Lara fight or the Skull fight where he just kept running around the ring. He made it a great fight. You know, you could tell strategy was there. You can tell Crawford knew what he wanted to do coming into this fight. And you could tell Canelo knew what he wanted to do coming into this fight. The only difference was Canelo couldn't do what he wanted to do against Terence Crawford. And Terence Crawford knew exactly how to crack the code against Canelo. Canelo showed weaknesses against guys like Floyd Mayweather, against guys like Lara in the Triple G fight the first time around. Bivol, he showed those types of weaknesses. All Crawford had to do was capitalize on them. It was harder to find weaknesses on Crawford when he was 41-0, 31 knockouts, and he never really looked too phased in many of his fights. He never really looked like he was in trouble. Maybe the only fights I can think of was like Madrimov and Sean Porter, maybe a little bit in the Gamboa fight. But overall, in my opinion, there's not many things that you could have looked at Terence Crawford. There weren't many weaknesses that you could pick apart with Terence Crawford, and I do feel like that had something to do with it as well. But regardless, as far as excitement, as far as entertaining, this was a very entertaining fight. It gave the 70,000 fans in Las Vegas something to look forward to. And honestly, I'm going to give the entertainment aspect an 8.5. And now we're going to go to the stakes. Well, what was on the line for both of these guys? When we talk about stakes, what was on the line? And for me, I'm going to be honest with you, stakes were 10. I mean, we're talking about the undisputed super middleweight championship, but it's not just about that. When do you see two great fighters in the same era, maybe 2 or 3 weight divisions in between each other fight? You don't really see it, okay? I have not seen somebody jump these many weight classes up since Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. going from light heavyweight to heavyweight or super middleweight to heavyweight, that was something in itself, and Crawford brought that to life. Crawford brought that aspect to life, and for me, I feel like when we're talking about stakes, Crawford took a big risk going up 3 divisions. And it wasn't just he was going up 3 divisions to fight somebody like a Berlanga or a Jaime Munguia or a William Skull, respectfully. He went up 3 divisions and challenged the cash cow, arguably one of the most successful fighters of our era in Canelo Alvarez. In my opinion, we got to give Terence Crawford all the respect in the world. And in my opinion, the stakes were so high. I mean, Crawford's undefeated record was on the line. Canelo Alvarez, again, now he's going to start getting all the criticism. Well, you had this great career, but you lost to a 154-pounder. Or I should put it in a quote, 154-pounder. Because we all know Terence Crawford is not a natural 154-pounder. He's always been big. People forget that part. So for me, going into this fight, the stakes were high. I mean, this was arguably, and I said it's the fight of the century. Obviously, the first fight of the century was Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, and we thought Terence Crawford's greatest fight was going to be him and Errol Spence. Obviously, we thought Canelo Alvarez was going to have any more super fights in him, and then this fight happened. And for me, this fight changed boxing because I think it brought boxing back. We've said it many, many times. Usually when a big fight's on and everybody tunes into boxing, something bad happens. You know, it's always something controversial. This time, no. This time, 2 of the best fighters of our era stepped foot in the ring. Terence Crawford was better. He got the victory tonight. And Terence Crawford establishes his legacy in a way that no fighter has. And in my opinion, we got to give Terence Crawford all the respect in the world, but we got to give Canelo Alvarez all the respect in the world for basically agreeing to the fight. Both these guys, they need respect, honestly. But as far as stakes, you got to give it a 10. I mean, everything that was everything was on the line. Let's be real. And there were all these questions with Terence Crawford. Oh, well, Canelo's a big guy. Are you sure you can handle him? How are you going to handle Canelo's strength? You know, there were a lot of these questions. You were out for a year. How is that going to affect it? And Crawford was like, look, size ain't going to matter. His strength ain't going to matter. That 1 year layoff, that ain't going to matter. Me stepping up 3 divisions, that's not going to matter. I'm going to go in there. And like he said, a lot of people like to say that they're the belt. He's the buckle. And he showed why he is the buckle. He had moments where he was having Canelo on his heels, on his toes, all those types of things. There were moments where I thought Canelo was going to get dropped. But then I realized Canelo's took in hits from one of the most dangerous fighters in boxing history in Triple G. And we forget that Terence Crawford got shot and drove himself to a hospital. Both these guys are dogs, warriors. And at the end of the day, nobody was getting dropped in this fight. Nobody was getting knocked out in this fight. And they put up a great fight. So in my opinion, stakes were high. I believe both of them delivered as far as how good the fight was. And I believe Terence Crawford delivered, especially by winning this fight and becoming undisputed super middleweight champion. So as far as stakes, I got to give it a 10. And then last but not least, the impact. Well, how does this impact the sport of boxing? And for me, here's where I'm going to say one of the most controversial boxing takes of all time. And this is where y'all got to listen. So me, I have my top 5 fighters of all time. And in boxing, it's hard to make a top 5 list. And I'm not saying my list is right. I just need y'all to really bear with me. So my top 5 has always been Floyd Mayweather, number 1. 2 is Rocky Marciano. 3, Sugar Ray Robinson. 4 was Muhammad Ali. And 5 is Terence Crawford. Notice how I said 4 was Muhammad Ali. And I'm going to say this right now. After what Terence Crawford did today, we're talking boxing alone. And y'all are going to hate me for this because we all know how much we love Ali. In my opinion, Terence Crawford, at least in my top 5 all time, has surpassed Muhammad Ali. And I'm going to explain why. So when you compare the two fighters, and again, comparison is, I don't want to compare them because Ali has done so much for the sport of boxing. When you're talking about impact, that's Muhammad Ali. Most lovable fighter, that's Muhammad Ali. What he did for the sport of boxing, that's Muhammad Ali. No, we cannot take anything away from Muhammad Ali. Most influential boxer, Muhammad Ali. I could argue Muhammad Ali is one of the most influential American athletes of all time. We're not arguing that. We're talking strictly boxing. We're not talking about anything outside the ring, how he changed the game about. We're not talking about that. The reason why I have Terence Crawford surpassing Muhammad Ali is because the way we look at it, and you got to take into effect that Muhammad Ali was a heavyweight and there weren't any division that he can go in besides heavyweight division. Both of these guys are a 3-time undisputed champion. Okay? Crawford fought 2 of the best guys. He fought the best guy in his division, Errol Spence, and he ended up becoming an undisputed welterweight champion, the first ever undisputed welterweight champion in the 4-belt era, must I say. So there's that. And then he ended up defeating one of the best boxers of our era in Canelo Alvarez. So you're talking about 2 of the best, and he defeated them. Muhammad Ali, he defeated George Foreman, and he defeated Joe Frazier twice. So you can compare those two. The only difference is this. At 37 years old, unfortunately, Muhammad Ali had to retire. And his health issues were getting in the way. He was losing to Larry Holmes. But I always say, when you push it further than what you're supposed to me, that does end up affecting your legacy in a way. So he lost to Larry Holmes. Then he lost to Trevor Burpick. And then after the Trevor Burpick fight, he retired. At 37 years old, Terence Crawford is a 3-time undisputed champion. Remind you, the only male 3-time undisputed champion in boxing history. In my opinion, if we're looking at solely what they did in the sport of boxing as far as accomplishments and accolades, in my opinion, I believe Terence Crawford, he has the resume. Now, people are going to say, oh, well, that doesn't compare to George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Ernie Shavers. We're going to talk about all of those guys. Well, if you really want to go down that list, I'm not saying these guys equal those, but if we're going to talk about resume, you got Errol Spence, you got Canelo Alvarez, you got Sean Porter, you have Kell Brook, you have Amir Khan. He's say what you want. I know those guys aren't compared to Ernie Shavers, Joe Frazier, and George Foreman. I understand that. But you can definitely compare Canelo Alvarez as far as where he is now and what he has been viewed as in this era of boxing. Let's face it, Terence Crawford is the best boxer of our era. So for me, in my personal list, I'm not saying my argument's right. This is my personal list. I believe Terence Crawford today in what he accomplished has surpassed Muhammad Ali. As far as strictly boxing, we're not talking about influence, we're not talking about impact, and we're not talking about anything outside the sport of boxing because that's all Muhammad Ali. And I'm not disrespecting Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali has been incredible. You know, without Muhammad Ali, there is no boxing, so we got to give Muhammad Ali all the credit in the world. But as far as what Terence Crawford accomplished today, Terence Crawford, in my opinion, has surpassed Muhammad Ali. I put him 4th all time on my list. And so, for me, the impact, going to the impact, it's a 10. Now we can see new fights. Now we can see more fights going on. Hopefully Terence Crawford is a little bit active. But in my opinion, the impact of this fight, it's absolutely huge because Canelo Alvarez, for the first time ever, he's not the guy in this era. It's Terence Crawford. And there were guys who were arguing that Terence Crawford was the guy in this era because of his pound-for-pound status. But Crawford said it. In order to be the best, I have to beat and go through Canelo Alvarez. And that's exactly what he did. You have 168 that he could retain his belt in. You have 160 that he could drop down 8 pounds and fight in. You have 154. So there's a good 3 to 4 divisions that he can go and choose fights. Terence Crawford has so many options that he can go through. And so in my opinion, this impacts the sport of boxing, because now Terence Crawford, if he wanted to continue, which I don't see him retiring anytime soon, but if he wanted to continue, he could drop down to 160 and challenge somebody like a John Abek. He could drop down to 154 and challenge somebody like a Boots or challenge somebody like a Virgil Ortiz. Again, there's so many things that he can do, honestly. And as far as impact, I mean, there's no doubt now that this is the number one pound-for-pound fighter right now. And it's going to take a lot to knock him off that number one spot. Let's say that right now. So I don't see Terence Crawford not being number one pound-for-pound anytime soon. And again, I think it's going to be an exciting part of boxing now that Terence Crawford is the super middleweight champion of the world, the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. And then on top of that, 5-division champion as well. So in my opinion, impact's got to be a 10. And with that being said, when we look at the overall fight grade of this fight, the overall fight grade is going to be 9.13. And 9.13 is going to be the number one ranked fight of season 5. The last fight of season 5 is the number one ranked. And we knew that this was going to be the last ranked fight of season 5 because we knew it was the most important. And so with that being said, it was an extremely great masterclass from Terence Crawford. As far as Canelo, keep your head up. What is next for Terence Crawford? Again, he's accomplished everything. If he wanted to retire, I mean, I'm all for that. You know what I'm saying? He could retire today, be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a living legend, and I wouldn't even have a problem with it. But I would like to see him, if he's going to continue fighting, stay at 160 to 168 just because it aligns with his weight a little bit more. And then as far as Canelo Alvarez, again, it's sad to see him slow down because I grew up watching Canelo Alvarez, you know, and watching this fight, it kind of made me sad in a way because you start seeing how slow Canelo Alvarez is getting and you start seeing how Father Time is catching up to him. And this fight was like a passing of the torch to the next guy who's going to carry the generation. I mean, Terence Crawford really don't have much time left, but this is like a quick passing of the torch. But if you were going to pass the torch to anybody, it was going to be Terence Crawford. I find it ironic that he's passing the torch to a guy who's 2 to 3 years older than him. But hey, that's the sport. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Terence Crawford, he hasn't slowed down. He doesn't look like he's slowing down. Even with a year out, he still looks like the same Terence Crawford. I wonder if he's any better if he decides to fight maybe a few times in a year. Who knows? But overall, I mean, this is really a passing of the torch. And I honestly think that this is huge for Terence Crawford. I think he absolutely proved, if there's anything that he proved that he is that guy. He's always been that guy, and it's time we start treating him like that guy. So overall, shout out to both of these guys. But as far as what's next for Terence Crawford, I would like to see him maybe fight John Abeg, give Canelo a rematch, or maybe he goes and he fights Shiraz or Mabili. Christian Mabili. I know that he is the number one ranked fighter as far as the Ring Magazine rankings, so maybe that's the next fight happening. And then as far as Canelo Alvarez, I would like to see him maybe fight Shiraz. You know, maybe he goes and he fights somebody like maybe Lara again. Who knows? But overall, it's just kind of hard seeing Canelo slow down. Maybe he takes a tune-up fight. Maybe he gets that rematch with Crawford. And as far as the rematch, as of right now, do I think Canelo wins in the rematch? Probably not. But again, maybe if I go back and I rewatch this fight, maybe if I go back and I watch some of their film, maybe I can kind of find something that he could take advantage of against Terence Crawford. But as of right now, I see this fight playing out the same exact way the second time around as it did the first. But overall, shout out to Terence Crawford on becoming a 3-time undisputed champion, a 5-weight division champion. And again, shout out to Canelo Alvarez. You know, keep your head up. Again, he is a legend. I don't want people just trashing him because he lost. The guy is a living legend as well. Both these guys, they're going to retire and be first ballot Hall of Famers. So overall, I mean, I just feel like we got to give them their respect. And with that being said, I think it's time for us to log off. Again, make sure y'all continue to tune into the Punch This Point. And again, after this video gets uploaded, I'm going to be uploading the post-fight video to Inoue versus MJ Akhmadaliev. Again, as of right now, it is 3:10 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to get some sleep. I got to wake up in about 4 hours to catch that Inoue versus Akhmadaliev fight. And again, make sure y'all continue to come back to the Punch This Point to get my reaction on that. Now, as far as the hot take of me saying Terence Crawford, in my opinion, has surpassed Muhammad Ali in the all-time boxing rankings. Again, y'all could be mad at it, but overall, there's an argument for it. Both guys, 3-time undisputed champions. Both guys beat some of the best of their era. Both guys have a stacked resume. At 37 years old, Muhammad Ali retired. At 37 years old, Terence Crawford is a 3-time undisputed champion. And on top of that, he is a 5-division champion. A 5-division champion. The wise words of Booker T, 5-time, 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 5-time. 5-time champion. So it's really hard to argue. Now you don't got to agree with it. I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate comments, but you don't got to agree with it. All I'm saying is this. Take that argument into consideration. That's it. But with that being said, it's time for us to log off of the Puncher's Point. Make sure y'all continue to subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure y'all continue to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure y'all follow the social medias. And again, with that being said, make sure y'all continue to stay on point with the Puncher's Point.